for this evening. As you know, he's leading out. Sorry, he's leading out in our of various amount of events throughout this entire month, and he availed himself not just to the Ephesus Church alone, but to the Harlem community, and even so much, we even got our flyer posted on the Northeastern Conference. So we don't know where calls may come from, especially focusing on the individual counseling sessions. If you think you need someone to talk to, you need someone to talk to. If you know you don't need nobody to talk to, then you really need someone to talk to. And if you need someone to talk to, yeah, just call because you need someone to talk to. So let's do our best to get involved and get our dates, get it in. Do call the number on top. That is the church number, and make your appointments to see our own brother Garry Graham. And as we know, he has a MA, MPH, and a LMHC. I had to find out what these letters mean, by the way. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know. It's so much, but you know, when someone has so much letters of the alphabet next to their name, they have been well trained. You gotta believe that. So he's dedicated to mental health professional, consulting, and speaking. So we are privileged to have him to not just be just a member, but also avail himself to be with us throughout this entire month. But please put your hand together for our very own brother, our member, our friend, Brother Garry Graham.
Thank you. Happy Sabbath, everybody. Okay. I am glad to be here at home, in my home church. I'm usually traveling, and when Pastor LaCroix asked me to come here, May is my busiest month because it's Mental Health Month, and ever since the pandemic, I've been very busy, but I want to have this session is very special. Well, I shouldn't say it's very special. It's one of my expertise. So I have four expertises. I call them four columns or expertises. One is grief counseling. Two is boys. For those who know me, I'm one of three boys. I've raised one boy myself, and so there are ways boys communicate that women don't, to their parents, to their mothers, and to their fathers, and across the board. Third one is addiction. So I am a certified alcohol and substance abuse counselor when it comes to vaping, when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to marijuana. All of those are my expertise. Very hard population. And the last one is anger management. And then ... So I've had the privilege of going around the world, actually. And I work in the busiest city in the world, the most diverse city in the world. And I've been blessed to have it. I didn't think it was a blessing at the time, but it is. A friend of mine said, you are probably the number one. At one time, I probably was the number one grief counselor in New York City. It came to the point, my wife and my son, and even my father, if there was a disaster on TV, literally the phone will call in minutes, and I would be assigned for that. And it's also a double-edged sword that every assignment I had to deal with death. On the other side of that, the assignment, it paid well. It really did, because nobody wanted to talk about death. And so, like last year, I give you something that happened funny. Like last year, when the plane crashed over the Potomac, I got that call, and that belonged to American Airlines. But even though I don't go to American Airlines, the whole industry of flight attendants and pilots were shaken by that. So I get the call, and I go down to JFK or LaGuardia, and you get to see what really goes on. And one of the stories behind that is when I talk to the flight attendants, and some of us who flies a lot, the flight attendant would tell me what was so crazy about that crash is that no matter who you are, it may be the safest transportation, but we all still get nervous. And while they were coming in for a descent, everybody starts to kind of let down the anxiety. You're about to land at Reagan National Airport, and if you've ever been on a plane, I talked about, especially if you fly first class, you hear the pilot and the machine says 10,000 feet, 15,000 feet. They just count it down. And so imagine losing your life hearing that. And that's what I heard from flight attendants. A year later, at LaGuardia, the Air Canada crash, something similar in the fact that they were on the ground. And you know, when you get on the ground, you think it's all over. You taxiing in, right? And the flight attendant story came back to me, and after you read the NTSB reports and stuff like that, her back was against the pilot, and then when the pilot crashed into the fire truck, her seat ejected, right? And she survived. The pilots died, okay? And the news, the one thing you'll know about the news tell their story, but you don't hear the story. The whole thing's a mess. This is the whole thing a mess. So with that, I want to bring it home here. And today I am going to talk about grief, because Monday night we're going to the grief sessions. And this church, I honestly believe, is on a rebound and is having a growth spurt or renaissance in some type of way. But there are portions that should and has to be addressed before God blesses us in this explosion. So you'll get what I'm saying. A lot of people understand what I'm saying, they respect what I'm saying. So I'm going to start with a couple of stories, and I'm going to give some of you an opportunity to talk about some of your hurt when it comes to grief here. And then we're going to unpack that. There's one thing I'm not going to do. I'm not going to fight with you. I'm not going to get into any ideologies of you. I'm going to say what my wife and my son says when I get nervous. Son, I get nervous when I talk. And they will say, Daddy. My wife calls me Daddy too. That's for all those people who don't believe that Sabbath dealing or whatever. Yeah. There's little cues that we have, right? So my one wife and son says, Daddy, you do this every day. So when you do this every day, there are some particulars that you pick up, some things in the Adventist church that we do that we have to throw away, and there's some things in the Adventist church we have to embrace, right? Everybody understands that. Because at this church, every other week, somebody's gone. Whether it's your cousin, whether it's your aunt, or somebody is in the sick and shut-in, somebody passes away. So I'll start with the one that how we all talk about. The guy, this is my last impactful person at Ephesus, and if I missed your family members, I'm sorry, but this is what impacted me. My usher with the afro that just passed by, what's his name? I'm asking you now. He's there, his sister is here, and he's always looked angry when he was in church. Terry, that's my boy right there. And when Terry passed, I was blown away. Because you look at Terry, he looked like he ain't dying 80 minutes now. Either if his hair is curled or his hair is out, you look at Terry, he mean to say hi, but he don't look like he gonna say hi. But that's one of us. And he's not here anymore. And there's a space that's not here anymore. In a way, Terry looked like Teflon. When you're just like, in a way, he may mean mug you in church, but let anybody come up in the church with anything, they're going to get cut down by Terry. Kind of felt safe where that is. So you understand where I'm coming from. Story I tell all the time is if anybody has been to our home, there's a carport in front of our house. There's a garage and there's a carport. And Nilsa and I decide that we are going to upgrade the house. It's getting a little older. Nana was around then, and I decided to go ahead and say, I'll admit it, our neighbor has a new carport, so I'm going to get a new carport. Then, we get the Jaguar, we get all that stuff, so we could put the new cars in the carport. And when I was planning to get a new carport, went to my neighbor's, found a great one, you could see through it and everything. She says to me, and I'll say to her, I admit, she has her own feelings. She said to me kind of shyly, maybe a little timid. This is somebody I lived with, my wife, for 25 years. It was kind of awkward. She says, I don't want you to take down the carport. Of course, a man, silly me, is like, why? It's broken at the bottom, and it's shaking. And what I didn't realize, that carport represents her dad, who passed away 92, 93. That's a long time. Those are Michael Jordan days. You understand? Those are boomerang days. My father-in-law, who I have not even met, could I have the floor here? If you're talking upstairs. Thank you. I'm going to ask again, please. So, my father-in-law, who's had an impact on this church, that reminded my wife, Nilsa. Big boy that I am, I tried to circumvent Nilsa and went to her older sister. I told you I have no sisters. She's my de facto sister. And I said, Nadine, I'm thinking of taking down the carport. And the same thing Nilsa said. Please, Gary, do not take down the carport because it still reminds me of Daddy. Okay? Brother Salmon still lives at 3407 Grace Avenue. There are things that will never change. Brother Salmon is still here at this church. But we're so Adventist, we're afraid if we mention his name, we mention him Duppy or Ghosts, instead of mentioning his legend. All these deacons are here, has come past my father-in-law. My son's big head is my grandfather's big head. And I try not to get emotional when I say things like this. You look at my wife's eyeball and my son's eyeball, they belong to my father-in-law. So when I look at my son's eyes and I look at my wife's eyes, I see Keith's eyes. Now, I got you paying attention now. This is a full-time, 100% church. When my brother got into the ministry in the early 90s, he was associate pastor at Linden. And every other week, he was doing a funeral. If you're an associate pastor at Linden or one of the big churches, it just happens. And our church, God bless our church, God bless Ephesus, becomes a conveyor belt. I feel bad for the church secretaries. I told you my wife was a church secretary. Half the time, her and Elder Singleton's husband were there folding bulletins. And if I wanted my wife's attention, I had to fold bulletins, so I kept up with her attention. This bleeds over to the second part of my story that involves her. While I was dating her, it was going fine. And I guess it was September of '99. I came, and her cousin had died. I said, I'm going to support, I'm going to show the man that I am, because this is future Mrs. Graham. I'm going to show out when everybody came from work, came my slacks and my shirt, came into the hallway, people lying on the floor, big 6'5" men crying on each other. And I was like, I can't be here. It's not my space. And I understood, or I thought I understood what was going on. So in our tradition of death and grieving, our church has the death. Then the pre-announcement. Garry Graham died, but do not announce it on social media until everybody finds out. Adventists love doing that, and especially now. They love announcing that they found out first. I don't understand the phenomenon when you have lost somebody that you have to be the first to tell everybody. You done messed it up, okay? After it gets announced, you have to align the dates. Then after you align the dates, you got to get the pastor and the participants. In our case, we were lucky because we kind of planned out the funeral before Nana passed away. I'm only using my example. That's why you saw Ron and Peter singing, because we used to hate when Nana was in her older age. It's like, when I die, I want Ron and Peter to sing. Ron and Peter sang. Everybody was at the church. It was beautiful. Then you had the repast. This was a reunion. Then the burial. And then the after and the legacy is what I want to talk about. There are great people that has passed here in this church. And we don't mean it, we just bury it and move along. Been here for 25 years. And probably the 4 deaths that hurt me the most, and I'll say it, and I believe in therapy where I say people's name, when June died. When April died, you gotta understand, June was my contemporary. To this day, when she sang the one by For Every Mountain, I'm tearing up. If you were there that Sabbath, it is 2026. June must have passed, I think, 2014, 15, something like that. 2013, thank you. June sang one Sabbath, and everybody knew that was her singing to us and telling us this was it for me. Leslie Phipps died the same day. Her daughter was singing up here today. Same day, passed away. Icons in their prime. I think Leslie was 50. I'm 57. Don's sister, the most athletic person you will ever meet in your life. I'm as round as you can be. Don's sister up there running half marathons and all that kind of stuff, gone. This church has to heal before we reveal. Wonderful church. Elder Singleton, Greg, over the pandemic. Pastor Brown, just taking us. Pew, 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 pew. Okay? Come in one week, go another week. And here's the thing that got me every time I go, and I tell my wife this all the time. What happened? See that people who come in on Friday, they don't come in on Monday. And the first thing they tell me is like, I just saw him the other day. Here's the funny thing. Here's the guilty thing, and I'm going to tell you not to be guilty of. I'm going to use my friend Dr. Shireen. I say to myself, she say, I got to tell Garry this. I have some great news, but he's so busy, and I got to do this. And I walk out today. I'll call him when I get home. And Tuesday afternoon, I'm gone. And she's going to tell Nilsa, I meant to call Garry. That's my dog. And we didn't really get to. I got a chance to let him see my baby girl, but we didn't get a chance to finish. I'm here to tell you, do not feel guilty about that. Life happens. It really does. So I'm going to tell you, if you got aught with somebody, you should really try to take care of it. If you really got beef with somebody, you really should take care of it. But here's the thing. I settle my beef with you, and it still won't go anywhere, or I settle my beef with you, and we keep on going. That's how it goes. You want to make it peace? Try to make peace. If you can't, keep it moving. There are people that are going to die that hated you before the grave and still hates you in the grave. Because their family member who like, Daddy hated him and I hate him too. You're wasting your time. People are people. Had a friend in school. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but hey, I'm the lecturer and the author, right? Had a friend, he said, oh my God, so-and-so died. Somebody did this to him and took him away from us. I was like, that's it. I don't care. Because I didn't like the way that person had treated me. You shouldn't feel bad about that. These are real feelings. Some people you didn't get in contact with, it's going to happen. You don't have to go to the funeral. Don't believe that lie. I'll even go further as this. If I died today and you don't go to my funeral, you could go see Nilsa and Tony 2 years from now, and you'll probably be better for them then than it is now. Because the funeral, everybody is coming through. Here's another one. Don't need your food. I don't need your food when somebody passed for a repast because everybody's bringing food. You want to be good? Send that Cash App and Zelle. Because the unseen finances that goes in between is unbelievable to the family. Picking them up from the airport, dropping them off from the airport, staying an extra hotel day. I ain't got no money. Can you hook me up? Somebody's supposed to come to the repast, and they bring 4 other people. You don't drink liquor. In our case, we're Jamaican. And every Jamaican liquor alive came to our house. Red Stripe to all kind of pepper pot came to the house. There was liquor in our house for 9 months. And I think between my wife and Jennifer and her friends, they must have drank a third of it because it was supposed to last 9 months. It only lasted 6 months. I know what's missing. Found out that people I love Tito's. You know even Tito's was? I had to look it up. Or Casamigos and all this kind of stuff like that. I'm like, Adventist people? Adventist. Bringing Casamigos to the crib. People started coming over the house. I never came over to the house. You know, I miss Sister Simon. Where that Casamigos at? You feel me? Our people need money and comfort. I had somebody at my church, at Bethel Church, very popular person, died, and they used to go on an annual trip. And when he died, his wife was stricken and upset that they didn't invite the wife because he died and they left her. She said, everybody forgot about me. She didn't need your liquor. She needed your company. So, last thing before I get into everybody working this out is underrated empathy. Underrated empathy. Okay, so my mother dies. Everybody's going to say, Brother Graham, your mother died, we feel bad. Half of y'all never seen my mother. In fact, the funny thing, I put a lady's name up there. She passed away. She was my mentor. Her name was Rosemary Graham. And when I put her name up, and I said in the post, this is not my mother. And everybody said, Graham, we're sorry, your mother died, and whatever. Posts, I had to remind her that that's not my mother. Everybody felt bad. Now, outside of a lot of people knowing if my adult brother dies, they're not going to get the same empathy as my mother or my wife. Adult siblings are closer than you think. Adult cousins are closer than you think. And they need your empathy too. Pets. People love their pets. Our pet is Gigi, and we love Gigi. Gigi's a mad woman, but we love Gigi. Come by the house, and Gigi will bark it down. And if you come to the house and you don't give Gigi her snack, it's a big problem. So anytime you come to the house, we have a little snack for Gigi. Gigi leaves us. When Gigi came into our life, we were having ups and downs with our mental health. And pets is one of the secret weapons that I use, because pets give you unconditional love. I come in the stairs, Nilson's not going to come down the stairs and give me a kiss, but Gigi will. You know, Nilson and Gigi's the same way. If they hear somebody try to come in the house, they both will make it to the door before I do. I'm just lazy because they're fighters. But people underestimate pets. And when somebody said they lose their pets, please don't say it doesn't mean anything. You do not know how far those pets has comforted people. Babies under 3 months or stillborn babies. Stop it. That's not your business. Because if you lost somebody under 3 months, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself. Leave it alone. Better yet, here's a rule of thumb. If you don't know what to say to anybody who's mourning, shut your mouth. Because even the good things you say doesn't make any sense. There are lines of battlefield promotions that you wouldn't understand. Nelson in our house is an administrator, but as soon as Mom passed away, Nadine became the matriarch. My brothers may be more popular than me, but the day my mother and father passes away, I step up. I have a friend, you probably some of them know the Ralphs, that lost their mother and father within days. One is a doctor, one is a lawyer, and one is a nurse. And the younger siblings could hold their own. Automatically, the older sibling takes place. So now that I've said that, I'm going to take this time for some people to talk and some tributes to the people you have loved. And this is something I go around with churches, and I go with the Black Seventh-day Adventist Church. Some of us don't get a chance. When we plan funerals, they say, Brother Francis, you have 2 minutes to say what you have to do. Sister Gigi, you have 2 minutes to say what you have to do. You don't know my impact on your life. So one of the things I tell in churches and consulting, and now that we have Zoom, on that Friday night or that Wednesday night, we're going to have a tribute to Roy Blake. And you should hear the wonderful stories how people impact lives. Sharon may not know, but you'll probably find out that Roy has been sending 3 or 4 kids to school, or find out somebody been late on their rent and Roy paid it. Sharon may not like it then, or no, probably find something missing, but it goes a long way. Some of us don't even know how others take care of others. I said this morning in my sermon, there are people who fall in love with people because of who you are. Oh, you're related to Kenyon? Don't know who's taken care of. You related to Roy? Got you. You Gigi's family? I got you. And you will never find out, because our church is all about pomp and circumstance. And who's going to cook the macaroni and cheese? Right? And you not selling $1 and you sending over Casamigos to the crib, but somebody needs to hear comfort. You'll be surprised the amount of friends that I have that their parents has died within a month or a day of each other. I could name 3. The Ralphs, Genevieve, and Gabrielle. They lost their parents within a day of each other. Pastor Earl and his wife died within days of each other. And I'm going to just be very transparent of you. My brothers and I are sick to our stomach because that's what we think that's going to happen to our parents. Because, you know, my dad is going downhill and my mother is going and everything's crazy. So I think you understand when you feel me. Here's the last thing I'm going to say before we get to the audience. Funerals and the death of our loved ones, especially Ephesus, is fertilizer for evangelism. So all of you who comes here, and when Kenyon talks to me, and if I'm gone and somebody says, oh, Gary's up in heaven, and you're super Adventist who comes here and said, oh, we don't believe in that. Wrong time. Because to some of my coworkers, they believe I'm in heaven. And they believe that I have wings. And they believe that I'm going to visit them and give them answers to the test. Leave that alone. That's for Pastor LaCroix and the pastor to take care of. Don't go to the pastor and say, you need a note for work, or you need FMLA, or the 3 days you get for grieving is nothing. I would even tell you go to work and use it when you need to. Sometimes it's just better to go to work and come back when you need those grieving. You only get 3 days. FMLA, I could get you 6 months. There are 3 codes that I can use that you will not lose your job. But you don't know, and you will find out you have EAP, you have FMLA, somebody passes, things change in the house. I know when I have an audience, and I know when it's there. Anybody who has beef with me to do tributes or to talk about people they've missed, especially this church, you're kidding yourself. One of the last things I said today is, it's not about money. It's not about how much tithe you return. Your currency is saints coming to church. People come to church. And there are people hurting, absolutely hurting, that wants to come to church. But we're so full of pomp and circumstances, whether who's going to preach from Nana's funeral or who's going to preach for Papa's funeral, that's all good. Somebody's alone. My mother-in-law passed away the other day. And when I talk to my wife, or if I talk to Nadine, one of the first two questions we will always ask, how's Nana? Still slips out of our mouth. Come to my house, and you try to sit in Nana's chair without permission, you're going to get bit by me, maybe Nilsa, maybe Nadine, maybe Jen, maybe Gigi. My cousin came over. She was doing some medical procedure, and she just went over to Nana's recliner and said, "Oh, can I use this and wrap up with this?" No. That is Nana's. You tell the good old Adventists, they're going to say that we worshiping the dead. You get backslapped for me for that. You do not know the input that my mother-in-law has had on our life. I would tell you it's okay to have a shrine. You have pictures up? The best thing I will tell you, especially if you have young kids, and especially in this digital age, one of the most peaceful things that I do is when my phone rotates and I see a picture of my mother-in-law with her bright eyes and her smile and her wonderful skin. And all things does not happen before it's time. Last story before I give it to say. My son, you see brilliance, but Nilsa and I seen his struggles. And during his struggles, I'm not going to say it out loud, couldn't put it together. Just could not, wanted to go to medical school and went to Columbia, did all the things, but just couldn't put it together. And then when Nana passed away, everything fell into place. Some things happen in its own time. I wanted my son to be the next Dr. Williams at Harvard. I forged a path. If you knew my public health path, went to SUNY Downstate. My mentor used to be the director of medicine for New York City, was the doctor for the Brooklyn Dodgers, met him, forged a path. I was like, you're gonna be my baby MPH, I got you. I said, no, Daddy, I wanna be a doctor. What was happening is Nana and him had a relationship. They must have had some type of blood oath or something. The day Nana passed is the day I think he applied for medical school. 6 weeks later, he's going to medical school. Now, I'm going to tell you this. There is nothing, you hear me? Nothing he cannot fail. He cannot do wrong. He's smarter than his teachers and his classmates. And that came from one person. Not Nilsa, not myself. Somebody was in his ear. So I'll go back to Ephesus. The elder Singletons, the elder Cerseys, Elder Phipps, Jake Nixon, all those people we know. And we have an opportunity to resurrect their legacy and keep it going. And when you talk about them over and over, you're not talking about any ghosts. You're talking about legacy. Look at the Stewart family. And the patriarch of their family just passed away. 101 years old. We have nothing on the walls for them. We have pictures of pastors here that has been here less than 4 years. But we have people who has been here for 50 years and their picture's not on the wall. You know I'm preaching. My personal, that corridor from the pastor study that goes behind the church organ, that goes to the other side where the deacons is, there should be a wall of all our saints. Baseball players retire, bust and pictures on the wall. Football players retire, bust and pictures on the wall. Shireen should come here, and her daughter should come and walk down that aisle, and she should say, "Who is that?" "That's Daddy." "Who is that?" "That's Daddy's best friend." "Who is that?" "Well, that's so-and-so." You know, my favorite is Brother Merriweather. That's my dog. He told me all y'all business. Every last one. I know all of y'all business. Because when I used to be down, he's like, Graham, this is what happened, and this is why they act like that. So I have 2 mics here, Pastor LaCroix. I wanted some stands. I'm going to give people an opportunity to talk about their hurt, to talk about somebody they missed, somebody they want to give tribute to, and somebody they want to give honor to. Don't take all day, because I know you people, somebody want to say something. She asked me if, does the dog feel it? Yes, absolutely yes. That's an excellent question, absolutely.
Can you restate the question? Because we're live streaming, so
She asked, when somebody passes, does pets grieve too, basically? Yeah, ours does that. Ours go on to Nano's bed and sleeps on Nano's bed. Her scent is still in the house. You could still smell it. You see soldiers come back from war 3 years and they still see it. So that is an absolute yes that goes there. Pets know when people has left us. It's kind of funny because they may still look for them because their sense is still there. Go ahead, sister.
I even know a case where pets know when their owner is sick.
True.
And have gone for help for the sick owner.
Well, that's why I tell you we should not mock the fact or underestimate when a pet passes away. There are special relations where that goes in. Anybody, tributes, talk about what we talked about today. Any ideas? What would you like to see? What would you like to do? All right. So, if anybody has any idea what they want to see in, I talked about the Zoom meetings. Roy, you wanted to say something?
I can. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
1 second, I'm coming.
Okay, so you have Roy and you have Doc.
As a grief counselor, how does it really impact you when you have to go to all these places?
Some impacts me more than others. Some, I just do my work. So I'll share you when that really impacted me. And this is a double-edged sword. When I go to investment companies, you see the haves and the have-nots. And when you go to investment companies, when you go to Bank of America investment, you go down to the lobby and you have to pay for your food. When you go to the Citadel, you don't pay for food. Citadel's rich on rich. And so I knew I was going there, and I went there, and it was one of the saddest things I have, because one of the things I struggle with, and I'll tell you about my journey and my weight journey and things like that, is I admire people who are athletes, how they get up and they run and what have you. And there was this guy, 32 years old, maybe about 6'2". They recruited him from China, and he was swimming in a triathlon. He was swimming, and in the midst of swimming, somebody knocked him on his head. Died. And what was so sad about it is the first thing I said to myself was like, man, that guy was in top shape. He couldn't even survive the blow to his head. That's what I'm saying. But the second thing is, he was here in the United States alone. His parents were in China. He's the only child. Then it got real for me. It was like, hold on a second. I have an only child. Suppose he went to China and he was swimming and it hit him on his head. So with that, that's one that really stood out to me. And be fair with you, there's another one that I was distracted, and I always tell the story. It's a funny story. I go to the store, and every time I go to one of these great stores, I try to pick up Nilsa something. So I go to the store, and I see saddles on the wall, and I see this scarf. And I say, I'm going to get this scarf. I said, Nilsa, I'm at this store called Hermes. And I said, I'm going to pick you up something. She said, no, honey, I don't think you could afford that. No, I'm going to get you the scarf. She said, okay. Of course, she let me play out. I pick it up. I said, this scarf is $332. What's this place called Hermes? She said, no, honey, it's Hermes.
Oh, excuse me.
I said, you will not be getting a present today. And to tell you, Roy, I don't even remember what I was there for. I just know that this place was outstanding. It was beautiful. And the second thing I remember that I was so hyped up because the vice president of Hermes called me from Paris and asked me what are some of the protocols they should use in grief. So thank you for that question. If you could put up the QR code, I appreciate that. Doc, go ahead.
Part tribute, part grief. I'm very thankful that I have my 83-year-old mom. So, and she's, thank God, while she's slowing down a little bit, I'm thankful to have her. And so, one of the things I'm helping with is they're trying to minimize some tripping hazards in the home. And so I'm going through, and without going into too much, I'm kind of becoming a ninja in the house and cleaning through things and going through things. And most of the time, I do make sure I run things by her mom. Do you need this? Do you not? But there was one particular thing. I was wondering if she's coming in, so I won't get in too much trouble. One, and like I said, part tribute, part grief. There was this long black bench that had in the house, but it really, it just got kind of decayed. The wood really was just getting a little decrepit. It was moldy on the top and it was covered by clothes for, almost a decade. And my dad has passed. Samantha's age marks my dad's passing. It's been 10 years.
There you go.
And so, as we're going through things, and so I said, this bench is, I don't even remember, it's old. I got rid of it. And so, my mom being remarried, she came back from a funeral on Tuesday in California, and she asked me the other day, she said, Shereen, where's the black bench? And I didn't think, because there's so much stuff she doesn't miss a lot of things. And I said, and I was thinking she was referring to the black ottoman in front of the bed, and she said, no, I mean the long black bench. And I said, oh, and I just said it really, really quick. I just said, oh, I gave it away. My mom is a very upbeat. I don't think I saw that type of countenance when she walked away. And I said, Mom, what do you know, the bench has been covered. Have you even seen it? It was like, when I say covered, I mean covered, stuff in the and it was in the basement for context. So it wasn't like it was something where we saw every day, but it was in the basement. And I just saw her face turn gray.
Yes, yes.
And I stopped what I was doing immediately, and I said, Mommy, what's wrong? And she said, I can't talk to you right now. And I said, Mom, and I literally shifted. I said, what happened? And so maybe after about 15 minutes, and I kept saying, who gave it to? Fast forwarding, and she just looked at me. She said, your dad and I we bought that together. And we used to sit on it. But it wasn't something we saw. Like,
It's not, there's nothing.
And I called my brother. I said, Jake, he's like, we don't. That bench has been out of sight for years. So we didn't, and moving forward, I will never do, without consulting. But it's kind of a situation where we're trying to get things in a place, for my mom to make sure she didn't trip and stuff. But she couldn't even cry. And I was crying because once I realized, and it was a grief moment, like how something. And she said, your dad and I bought that, and we used to sit on it. And we know of a lot of furniture in the house that they bought to get things she would tell us, but for that one, I didn't make that connection. And that was just opening an emotional piece that was a bit rough. But thankfully, I said, Mommy, I'll go find it. She's like, no. Daddy's gone, it's okay. But we had that moment this week, and we haven't had something like that in a little while.
And this is just recent, right?
This was yesterday.
See, and you see the way you tied in your daughter's path. Is that long Dad has been gone?
10 years.
10 years
Yeah.
already. Seemed like yesterday. And it goes back to what I was talking about with Nilsa Nadine. You come to the carport, it's rotting at the bottom.
And when you said that, that's triggered that.
It's rotting at the bottom. That joint will fall over any day. Now, if my Benz is in there, what can I say, right? Daddy
Thank
did.
you for this opportunity to share that.
That's okay. But West Indians in their Venice, right? I'll have a new car. The carport will fall on it. And Nilsa will probably say, Daddy, push that over. You don't want that to happen. They get into those kinds of things. The QR code, if you look at it, you should pull it up. It's the radio show. Please turn it down. And moving on for today, for the next 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to take excerpts from this, and we're going to play it on the radio show. So if you take a picture of it, turn it down, and it will be playing. But I'll be frank with you, I'm trying to work with our numbers and work with some creativity. Shireen, that was an excellent story. You put two things into fact that even though it's 10 years ago, it marks your daughter's growth. When she's 20, she's 25, is going to keep on going, and the bench. And I'm sure before you throw anything out, you'll check twice. So that's kind of, yeah. Anybody else want to give a tribute or a story? Yes, Jen. Oh, you was pointing at somebody? What about it? That's the wrong code. Okay. Well, actually, what it is it some site that it shouldn't be on?
Meritus.
Huh?
That's Meritus. That's what that is.
Oh, that's Tony's Meritus?
Yes.
Oh, okay, take that down. I'm sorry. We'll do it next time.
Take it down.
Okay, go ahead.
It kind of to talk about what she was talking about, personal items. Mine is a little extreme in that my father died in 1975.
Still counts.
And it was a month and 10 days before my 8th birthday. And he died on a Sabbath, January the 18th. And I was young, so, as a child, people overlook you and make the assumption they don't know anything. They don't know grief. But I did, and I grieved in a very haphazard sort of way. I hated my mother, I hated God, I hated everybody. Then I came back, and you go through the whole cycle. I say all that to say, it's been over 50 years since my father's been dead. And it doesn't hurt, but you still miss. Because there is a conscious acknowledgement that there's this permanent void. And I was just telling Nadine that after 50 years, I don't have really much of a memory of him, but I only have one thing left that's physical, that was his. It is a glass that he used to have by the bed that he always drank water from every night. My greatest anxiety and fear is that that glass is gonna break.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
I have it tucked away in the back of my spice cabinet so that it can't touch or be seen. Because if that glass breaks, I really do think my mental state is gonna take a left turn, whether I realize it or not. And I say that to say grief does not ever end. You learn to manage it, and you learn to compensate for it, but it does not go away. We went to Jamaica, was it last year?
Last year.
Last year, our family. And if everybody doesn't know, these two are my cousins, right? The good, well, I'm not gonna say it that way. I was gonna say the good angel and the bad angel, but I won't say that. When we went to the country, and a lot of our ancestors we share common great-grandparents. And we went to the country, and I hadn't seen my father's grave in over 50 years. And I specifically went because I was like, well, I don't know if I'll ever get to see it again. And going there and looking at it again, the memory is a very powerful thing. It's almost like I'm reliving 1975 as a 7-year-old again. I'm at the grave site. I see my mom, who almost literally tumbled into the grave, and I see their Uncle Khan snatching her before she tumbles in, and I'm reliving the 7-year-old me again. And I'm looking at his grave, and I'm just touching it, and you know, I always joke, I said I have to go put my eyes on Paul. But I had to go see, and it's just that people think that people have been callous, not just to me, but I've been in Ephesus long enough, and I've heard conversations. People are callous. Well, they've been dead 2 years, you know, you gotta get over it.
Lord.
Well, you know,
Commercial right there.
they've been dead.
Bad words.
They've been dead, you know, come on, they've been dead 10 years, you gotta pull yourself together. No one has the right to put an expiration date and a time clock on how you process your grief.
Wonderfully said.
And you learn, as I said, to move through it, you get around it, you process it, you work with it, but no one can ever tell you when is the right time to let your heart let it go. And it's very callous for people to say that to you because your heart wants what your heart wants. And again, if we don't take anything away from anything else, let people grieve. Do not be so callous and cold. If someone is sitting in church and a hymn hits them and triggers them and they start to cry, let them. And instead of being judgmental, give them a tissue. Hold their hand. Touch them and say, it's gonna be okay, I understand. But don't ever look at people that cry in church over a song and have an attitude and say, I wish they'd get themselves together. Why they doing that? It's been 15 years. Let people grieve how they grieve.
Real quick, thank you, Garry, for allowing us to talk about this. So Mom passed November 2024, and her closet in her room is still the same.
Yes, it is.
We have not touched an iota. Nilsa wanted to give one of her deaconess hat to the deaconess, and I'm like, I'm not ready. She's not going to use it anymore, but just know that it's still there. I'm not. It's not time yet. It's not ready. So everyone grieves differently. I know she can't hear me, but every time I go into the house, I go in the room, I touch the bed, and I say, hi, Nana. She's not there. We know that. We know that she can't hear it, but that's mine.
But
that's
the energy that comes from that.
Right.
It's amazing that our culture in the Seventh-day Adventist Church and some of our Caribbean backgrounds stops us from getting
I guess some people believe it, that she
Right.
can hear. I know she can't, but
Right.
that's just mine.
Right.
That's just for me. Her clothes still there, her pajamas, her drawers, everything is still the same. And if, I don't know, if we move it, then it's like we're removing her. So, you know, everyone grieves differently.
Yep, and it may be there for longer than you think. That's where that is. Thank you for that, Nadine. Okay, somebody here in the corner. Okay, we got a couple more people. Knew we could warm up some. Yes, dear, go ahead.
You can hear me? I can't hear myself. Thank you for saying that, ladies. One of the things that my mom used to do was dance with me and my brother. She used to dance with us. Like when a song came on, with the, you know, the 8-track cassettes?
Yes.
She would put on something. And she was Spanish, so even though we didn't understand it, she would translate it later, but she would say, dance with me. So every time I get a chance to dance.
Thank you. She, for those who didn't hear, her mom used to dance with her and her brother. And every time she get a chance to dance, it brings her to a space where it is. Okay, Venice, we're not supposed to dance, right? Right? No, I'm just being facetious with this because our people, they'll see that and they'll attack that. But these are places of intimacy. You said one term, you said 8-track tape. You said 8-track tape. When you say 8-track tape, my dad is still alive, but I remember going into Cutlass, and I remember my dad always playing Mickey and Sylvia, Love is Strange. I know that song back and forth because that was my dad's, is my dad's song. I want to thank you for that. Appreciate that. Somebody else had a hand. Okay, yes.
I was just thinking about a church sister, you know, Adventist lady. Well, after her mother passed and she would go to the house, the mother was she used to count every penny when she was, you know, during her lifetime. So if she had to pay a bill, this lady had to pay a bill, she would talk as if this little mother could hear her and said to her, look, I have to pay this bill. I have to spend this money to pay this bill. And all of that. Then she would count up how much money she has to spend and talk it out loud for the I know she doesn't think that the mother can hear her. But is there anything about that? Or why does she think that she can do that? This is not you know, she's quite an educated lady, but she still does that.
I, as a therapist, I would encourage that. There are certain things that triggers certain smells, certain places, certain blocks that you go to. And if you want to pay the bills with your mom, that's okay with me. There are bigger fish to fry when it comes to mental health. I'd rather you count money with your mother than do other things. I want to share something before the next person talk. I hope I can read it real quick. And it's something from I got one thing I need to tell you, that the day that Leslie passed away, it was Cynthia Buxton. They passed away on the same day. I think it was June 10th. They both passed away. And that was a sad day here at our church. The fear of forgetting. With grief comes an unspoken fear. The fear of forgetting memories together, forgetting their voice, the sound of their laugh, their mannerisms, and all the things that made them who they were. There are days where the memories are so vivid, and yet there are days where I feel the pain of time pulling me further away. Scared that I'm slowly forgetting the details. That's big right there. Grief is holding on as tight as you can to those memories because they are proof of a life and love that was so very real. So I can agree with all that was said there. Anybody else? Nancy, and then, I see you, my queen. I'm sorry. We'll make sure we see. Yeah, you have the mic? Okay,
Yes,
okay,
I got the mic.
okay.
Yes, two things. Um, you know, when someone passes, people talk of, you know, a period of time, and eventually you will have just the good memories
Mhm.
that would make you smile and laugh to remember. But they don't tell you that you have bad memories too.
Mhm.
That comes and haunt you. So for like me, my husband died about 3 years and 3 months, 3 or 4 months ago. But what haunts me is I think that I could have done more.
Mhm.
I should have maybe be a better advocate,
Mhm.
as it were.
Mhm.
Because by the time they found out
Mhm.
that he was terminally ill, he only had about 2 months. By the time they found out, they couldn't do anything.
Mhm.
But I was seeing him getting less and less
Mhm.
in my face.
Mhm.
So that haunts me.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just tell you this. You have an opportunity. This is why we have these groups, right? So you have an opportunity to help other people get screenings, go to the doctor early, things of that nature, because you now have the power in your hands to tell people, like, you don't want to go through what I went through. I know, Sister Turpin, you're a wonderful person, right? Took me years to go to the doctor. It didn't take something, it did not take something, I had to go to emergency. I had made my choice. And I've been praying about it. My anxiety is going up, right? Thank God there's nothing crazy going on. But now, what I told you, that grief is fertilizer, this is an opportunity that when they have those health days, when Family Life does the shower patrol, and they come there, and you always out there, you have an opportunity to tell people and men, have you got a checkup today? Have you gone on today? They don't need to know what your motivation is. God will bless that. That will turn into something that you will be surprised. I guarantee you this. If you put one of those bullets in your pocket as your evangelistic tool to tell people to take care of their health, somebody's going to come back and say, you know, Sister Turpin, I'm glad that you told me that. Because you have a very soft approach. You have an approach that people are going to listen. And you know the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes here that you can help. So that's my advice to you.
Yeah, but I also have this life-size cutout.
Mm-hmm.
My husband was like 6 feet plus.
Mm-hmm.
So it's big and tall.
Mm-hmm.
I have it in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to my cutout.
That's fine.
Say, honey, I'm home.
That's fine. That is absolutely fine.
Whatever.
And if anybody has a problem with that, I have a special discount. It's called These Hands. Anybody who has a problem with that, they can see me. You're going to go see Michael Jackson and The Devil Wears Prada, and you're going to take pictures in front of it and everything like that to somebody that you've never seen. But this is somebody that you loved all your life, right? The cutout will go when it needs to.
Yeah.
And the picture will go needs you to. You keep on talking to him, and you tell him I say hello.
I will.
Say, Brother Graham says hello. Yes, sir.
Similar to my sister here, I went to a funeral and it bring back those memories. But what I really wanted to say is dreams. Just recently in devotion, I woke up, and as myself and my wife was having devotion, I was telling her, there was this school friend from way back, childhood, that I haven't thought about for
years.
from that time, put it that way.
Yeah.
And I had a dream about him, and I woke up and I tell her, you know, how we became friends in school, you know, we're in the same class. And because our life didn't really interchange more than so much, but we share a nice little time. I hadn't thought about him all these years. But dreams, there's things that dreams connect us with unexpectedly. You haven't thought about this thing or nothing, and you just have a dream that bring you back, awaken that reality, that experience, that you can say, Father, wherever that person is, have mercy. If they pass, hope they make it through, you know?
That's
But
wonderful.
it does something for you also.
So, and when it comes to dreams, take this half-heartedly. That if somebody comes to your dream, it's not a duppy and it's not a ghost. In your subconscious, you have thought about that person. Something triggered it and happy. If Sister Salmon comes to me in my dream and gives me 8 lottery numbers, I'm playing it. You could disfellowship me out the church all you want. In fact, I think I played in multiple states. If she tells me who's going to win the World Series, I know I have a gambling section of this, but if she tells me that something's going to happen, I'm going to do it. But where I'm going with this is sometimes we have dreams of somebody who has left us, and you don't want to leave the dream. And when you finish dreaming, and I think sometimes God gives us dreams to connect. Sometimes decisions are made out of those dreams, and you don't tell anybody. And even though it comes out to be successful, they still mock you. Hang on to your dreams. Yes, Nancy, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to talk about Greg Hodge, who I used to date. When he passed away, it was very unbelievable to me at the time. As a matter of fact, I was upset with God. And I was like, God, as I was coming over to the place to see where he had passed, I said, I know this can't be true, and I know that you can keep him alive. And when I got there, I actually thought he was alive, but everybody was there, which were the police officers, all the other people. I didn't realize they all knew him. It was about 20 people. And I just kept telling them, can you just check? Can you just check? I know he's still breathing. And so finally the guy said to me, he started crying. He said, ma'am, if there's anybody I could bring back to life, I wish it were him, because he was my friend too. And at the time, this was during COVID, you know, I just couldn't believe it. But when Sister Singleton called me, even after I told my sister, and she probably told the church, I looked at my phone and I was like, why is she calling me? Because I knew her son had passed. I said, she should not be calling me to comfort me for anything, because that means this thing is true. And so from that, I got a flood of calls.
Wow.
So let me just try to say this really quick. From that time.
No. No, we don't do that here.
Okay.
We cut out some time for this.
From that time, I went by myself. My sister asked if you wanted me to go with you. I said, no, I'll go by myself and just see what's going on, because the guy told me to wait. And I just said, I can't wait any longer. Let me just go to the scene and see what's happening. And so I left, and I said, you have to stay home and watch Mommy anyway. And height of COVID, nobody's leaving their parking spots. So I said, you know, we can't both go, and, you know, it'll be hard to find a spot. So I went by myself, and so it happened. I stayed for a long time, and I was like, God, this is not what we talked about. So Greg lived in this area that was by a terrace, and so coming over the bridge, I said, Lord, I know you can keep him alive. Whatever's going on, if they can't find him and he's dead, I know you could bring him back to life. You know, it's not impossible. And I said, but just please be with the situation. And the one thing I didn't want to ask was, if it is your will. I did verbalize it. I said, no, Lord, I know I should ask if it is your will, but I said, but I just want you to make this thing work out the way that I want it to work out. And I know it can happen. So fast forward, I got to the scene, and they told me that the EMS person, you know, was crying. All of them are crying, actually, because all the EM stations were notified that he worked at. And so they came to the scene right away. as well as other emergency people that knew him. So I left. My sister wanted to come to me, and I said, no, don't worry. Let me just come and drive home because I'm not leaving my car here. I probably won't want to come back the next day or the day after that. But I just said that because I really wanted to talk to God because there was so much I had to say. And I knew I had a small window before I would get flooded with calls. So before I forget, while I was at the scene, I looked over, and I just could not believe that he passed. I had to look in the sky. It was sunset, and I was like, is it possible God is coming? So I looked to the east to see if I could see, it sounds funny, but I actually looked over to see if I saw God coming, breaking through the sky. I said, because maybe this is why all these things are happening. And when I looked over, I think the guy thought I was going to jump. I was just looking over, so I had to go like that. And so he pulled me back down, and plus I was hyperventilating, so he had to give me oxygen and stuff like that.
Not a good look, right?
So, but all that to say is it takes a long time sometimes to really believe that your loved one, especially someone you think that God brought to you, is gone. And so I had a lot of questions, and that's why I didn't want my sister to pick me up. I said, no, don't pick me up. I'm strong enough to drive home. Because I couldn't wait to get in the car and just
cuss.
Blast the Lord, And I talked to the Lord about a lot of things that I'm not happy about, things that I'm happy about. So I couldn't wait to get in my car and just say, this is not what we talked about, And I did. I had a few moments, but I was like, Lord, I'm upset. I'm not stupid. I'm going to hold your hand, but I'm not talking to you. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm just going to hold your hand, but I'm not going to talk to you the way. And I did it like in a little childlike way. But I was serious. So for 2 weeks, I could barely get out of bed. And I just laid there, in death, so many things are revealed in death that you don't know about. And, this case was not
any different.
Unusual. Some things were unusual. So there was a lot that I did find out. And somewhere along the line, a few weeks later, I kind of felt not just betrayed by God, but betrayed by people that I thought were close to me.
That's another
and
thing.
I think things just got a little overhyped, but people ask me questions and this and that, and couldn't you have been here, or, all these things. So you get laden with all this guilt. And so I had planned my exit for Ephesus. After a while, I said, you know what, I'm just going to leave this church. Nobody knows this but you and me, God. And I said, and I'm not even talking to you, so I'm not even sure why I'm telling you this. So, so that happened, and somewhere Pastor Brown intervened to, this happened before Greg left. He asked me to be Health Ministries, and I said no. But whatever reason, I took it, and it was a good thing that it happened, because the only reason why I'm still here today is because of some things that Pastor Brown said, and somehow it just made me see how God actually puts things in place before things actually happen. Talking about dreams, my brain is all over the place because he talks about dreams, and I did have a dream that Greg passed. I had this weird dream, and it seemed like he passed. And I did have a dream after he passed that he was in my dream. I came home, and I saw him. I came home from work, and I saw him in the room. I was like, Greg, what are you doing? And he had on his jacket. I said, I knew it was just a whole hoax. I knew you knew too much about stuff going on, and they tried to kill you. So you had to hide. So I was so upset, and I hit him. I said, well, I have to go back to work. I said, but I'll be right back. Now, in reality, I would never do that, but I guess the dream was just telling me that, you just have to keep doing what you have to do. When I came back home, I ran up the stairs, and halfway up the stairs, I heard a voice say to me, he's not there, but you'll be okay. And I knew it was an angel or a God-like voice. And when I heard it, I was sad because I was waiting to just see him again. And the voice, the voice didn't verbalize this, but it said it in my head, if that door is closed, he's not there. If it's a little bit open. So I looked from the side banister, and I saw the door close, and I was like, he's not there. I said, darn it, why didn't I just stay there? I'm saying all this in the dream. Why didn't I just stay there? And so I opened the door, and it just smelled like dust. Like you can tell someone hasn't been present there for a long time. But the voice in my head comforted me to say he's not there. So while I'm still dreaming, I said, of course he's not there. because he's dead, you know, but I was excited in the dream to see that. But unbelievably, the dream comforted me by hearing that voice saying that he's dead, but you're going to be okay. So I was very comforted by that. Also, just have to say just a few things in my head. When I said that I was upset, I had to teach myself to love myself again. Because I thought Greg was, you know, a gift. And I don't want to say I thought he was. God brought him into my life for a reason. But it was for Greg to strengthen his relationship with God. And I didn't know that. But that's why he brought him into my life, for that reason, I believe. And, but I was very upset. I felt like I wasn't loved. At the time of COVID, something happened that doesn't normally happen. And I would actually say that I'm kind of jealous of this. When people died, they have funerals. Greg never had a funeral. It was just too close. They were burning bodies.
Yep.
You could not have a funeral. I called Bethia. The funeral homes were overladen, so he couldn't even be anywhere. If he wasn't an EMT, he would be in some box somewhere. But they took him to a special morgue, and they kept him there. And, you know, the fire department, the guy there said, I would never leave his body until his body goes down, because that's what they do in my country. He's from Colombia. So he said, I stayed with him the entire time while you were here. You didn't see me, but I stayed by the body. And even his bird would not leave Greg's side. His bird was underneath the bed, and when they took the body to put it on the morgue, the bird came out and fought everybody. And so they had to put the bird out. So anyway, coming back to funerals, you know, sometimes when I come to funerals, I'm just like, oh, I wish I had the opportunity to have a funeral with Greg. It wasn't like that. We had a quick memorial service online, you know, but I know you say the monetary things are important, but when you come to a funeral and you're there and you're present with someone and you get a chance to hug somebody, it's such emotional support that it's unbelievable, you know? So because I didn't have that with Greg, we just had a lineup. I was called one day, be here, we're going to the funeral, you're not gonna be able to come in. They're gonna march Greg in. We happened to go in, but everything was just to the letter, you know. And so that was a very trying time for me, because I didn't have a chance to grieve a person in the proper way with my family community in that way. A lot of you called me, and I'm thankful for that support, but there was just a lot of mixed messages in my head about a lot of things that I was hearing. So I had to teach myself to just love myself again. I couldn't pick up a camera. I couldn't even walk in this church, and I never verbalized that. But I didn't, because I'm a positive person, I didn't want that to happen to me. So I had to force myself to come to this church all the time. And during COVID, nobody was coming, so it was a good time for me to come in. But when I came in, I was stressed looking at it. So by the time everybody came in, I was a little more comfortable with it, but I wasn't comfortable with it at all. I just wanted to beat this thing, you know? And I wanted to be here for my church family, for anybody else who was grieving in that way. I did a self-treatment for myself. I said, you know what? I would probably never pick up this camera again, but something that we used to like to do is take pictures of sunsets. So I said, let me just take a picture of a sunset. And so every day for 2 years straight, after work, I would go down and watch the sunset. And I would tell myself, you know, when that sun is going down, that's death. It's nothing I can do. If you see the sunset 10 minutes before it goes down, the sun goes down so fast, it's like it's slipping out of your hands. And when you get there, you can't hold it. You can barely look at it. And as it goes down, it's just gone. You will never see that sunset again, never. And so every day I taught myself, you know, Greg is not coming back. But what promise is coming back is that there will be a sunrise. I can't even see the sunrise yet because the sun just set. But there will be a sunrise that I have not had the opportunity to see. But I just have to learn to breathe and hold on and wait till that sun rises again. So I taught myself that, you know, when one window closes, another one opens up again. And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, but it just made me excited to see the next day. But every time I looked at that sunset, I just said, okay, well, let me just let that go. So, and then one last point, what you said about the pictures and stuff like that, I think that's a great idea. Every end of the year, we do try to have photos of everybody and stuff like that. But I think that's a great idea to do. So sorry if I talked too long, but I just want to
No,
say those things.
This is one space. I'm coming to you, Sharon. And then I'll come to
Sorry, just one last thing, but we really do need to be careful of what we say to people when somebody dies, you know, because some awful things have been said to me, and I had to pray to God not to
lay hands.
go on the dark side of myself on people, you know, and even forgive people, even though they didn't even realize what they did to me, you know. So that part, we just have to be careful. And sometimes we should just pray before we go to somebody, because we can nervously say the wrong thing.
The advice to that is, like I said, say nothing.
Say nothing, yes.
All right, Sister, thank you, Nancy. So thank you so much for that. Sharon.
When you started out, you mentioned that if there is something that we have to say to anyone or say it in that moment, just as you're talking, I remembered my dad. He was in the hospital, and they called me and they said to pick him up Monday morning. Excited for him to come up because my dad and I were very close. And he called me and he said to me, I must come. There is something that I want to tell you. And I said, okay, Dad, I'll be there. So the kid said, Ma, you know, let's go to the hospital. We want to go see Papa. I said, all right, we're going to go see Papa. But you know how it is. You find something in the house to do, and you're lingering and you're lingering and lingering until it gets late. And I don't know why I didn't go at the think of it at the moment, because knowing me, I pride myself in going to the hospital to see someone who is sick. And for some reason, after it got a little late, I said to the kids, oh, I'm picking him up tomorrow morning, and about 10 o'clock we should be home. So whatever he has to tell me, it's okay. And Georgia said, Ma, let's go. I said, it's okay. Tomorrow morning we're going to pick him up. And I was dreaming about him sometime during the morning hours. And I can remember it was about 7:10, and the phone rang. And, you know, I jumped out of bed. And I picked up the phone, and the person on the line said to me, Sharon, I said, yes. He said, you're okay? I said, yes, I'm okay. Who is it? He said, it's the doctor. I said, is my father okay? And he said, are you okay? I said, why are you calling me this early to ask me if I'm okay? He said, your father just passed. And I said to him, my father could not pass. I'm coming to pick him up at the hospital. And so it reminds me that whatever you have to say to anyone or to see anyone, do it at that moment in time that you have, because I thought I would have seen my dad alive on Monday morning, only to be awakened out of my sleep to hear that he was gone. And even now, sometimes I sit back and the thought just comes to my mind, what was it that he had to tell me? And I often say to Roy, I will never hear what he had to tell me because he's gone. I should have actually gone. So, and it behooves us to just do what we have to do in the moment.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Sister Yates. Francis. And how you want me to go with this? Yates first? These last two. Yep. Francis, this is Sister Yates right here. And then Francis will close out. Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to be too long, but I am not the ninth of 10 children. And so two of my older sisters passed before I was born. One passed when she was 2, and the other passed when she was 6. I was always curious about my sister, 6-year-old sister. And the 2-year-old was epileptic, and she passed. And my 6-year-old fell from an orange tree. A thorn went into her thigh. And back in those days, they didn't have the technology that they have then, and she died from tetanus poisoning. I have pictures of her, and when I look at her, I see myself. And for years, my mother would call me Diane. That was her name. And then she would say, oh, Charmaine, what am I thinking, right? So I was always curious about her. And I wanted to know what she was. When she was about to die, my family's very Catholic and staunch Catholics, and a priest asked her on her deathbed, stupid question, I thought, where do you think you're going to go? It's a 6-year-old. Where do you think you're going to go, heaven or hell? My sister said, wherever God wants me to be. Years later, about 10 years ago, I had a dream. And I saw my sister. She was an adult. Beautiful. She was in this beautiful garden, head full of curls. And she said, hey, I'm okay. How are you? She looks beautiful. She was in white. And so I keep that thought in my mind, because I always think about, do children, when they die prematurely, do they go to heaven, and so on and so forth. So I think about her, and I pray that one day not only will I see her, but that I will see my third oldest sister as well, who died when she was 2. She was a pure innocent, and they both were. My sister, who died when she was 6, bus drivers attended her funeral. She was very, very well loved by the community. She was very special. And so, although we have periods of grief, we do have periods of hope, in that one day we do know that if we live according to his will, and that when we die in his will, that one day we hope to see those who went ahead of us in glory. So it's sorrow, but it's mixed with hope in my behalf.
Thank you, Sister Yates. Last one, Brother Francis. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody for...
Thanks.
Sir.
This doesn't have with me so much to do with people passing away, but I think some experiences we probably all go through to some degree. So last Saturday, I decided I'm going to a church in Brooklyn, right? It happened to be Goshen. I was feeling so good about it, and I went there, found out Pastor Ming, who's the pastor there. I found out he's not preaching today. I said, is everything okay? And he's in the West Indies putting on like some sort of tent.
Mission trip.
Yeah, something like that, right? And so I was like, wow, I started looking around. Bottom line is I started getting like these kind of lonely feelings. I guess I felt I was going to hear a good word from Pastor Ming, and it really did affect me. I'm just honest with you, right? So what I'm trying to say is sometimes we all have to deal with kind of lonely feelings too that seem to want to like overcome you, I would say, right? I know a few people there, but it wasn't the same. And I was like, this week I'm coming to Ephesus. And because, I've kind of been around here a few years, I have a few friends and so forth, but Ephesus people in general are warm people, right? We are. And so I just appreciate that you're letting people kind of talk out how they're feeling. And then found out today that they're serving roti today. I got a word. And their roti is one of the best. But we never know the simple things in life that could make us feel more loved or more secure, right? So just a question is, so if people are going through, say they happen to be single, or they're living alone or something like that, in the church, is there any type of group where people could just call and say hello to each other, anything like that that's planned?
So a lot of churches outside of our denomination and within our denomination, they have grief groups.
Okay.
So one of the I guess I'll just call it a trial period, is for 3 years I've had a grief group on Monday nights. And so Ephesus is going to take care of that for the next 4 weeks. I know your case, single people, people who've lost somebody, but people who's lost somebody is in a weird space. I'll be transparent. Your mother was one of my favorite people growing up as a young boy at church, and you knew that. And your wife, who has passed, was one of my favorite people growing up. So I know your situation, and if I was your personal person, I would continue to do what you're doing, because you went to Goshen. You know where your warm spots are across the Northeastern Conference. But I would go to the North American Division website, and a lot of people don't want to do this, but there are a lot of people across this country that matches your energy, that they have, they like to call it dating sites, I call it, but there's a lot of Adventist single people. Colorado, Nevada, California, Oregon, Atlanta, and you're a well put together guy, you're intelligent. I tell people to stretch your tentacles out there and give it a shot and see what it is. I look for the site for you, and I'll pass it on to you. My last words are, thank you so much for having me here. I have to just say, I don't want to keep anything long. Monday night, we will bring this over into our Monday night 7 o'clock grief counseling. You don't have to show your face, and you can make sure we will have special guests, and we will guide you through. If this works, maybe we can extend it somehow, some way. I am very happy for some of you who kind of wonder what I do. This is what I do around the country. And I'm praying that we could take some of this into our repertoire and our protocol moving forward. Pastor Carr, I'll pass it over to you.
Praise the Lord, somebody. Praise the Lord, everybody. Just would like to invite Dr. Brown as she brings our word of thanks.
I just simply wanted, just to say thank you. That was really just, this was such a blessing, and really wanted to say thank you so much for this opportunity to open up and share. It really, really means a lot, so thank you so much.
All right, let's give him a round of applause, everybody. It's just phenomenal to hear from your fellow members, to see what they've been carrying on their shoulders, on their backs, for not just a brief, short time. Someone mentioned from the 60s, and it's a burden that you carry, but this is the space for it. One thing the Bible let us know, that the sanctuary was not just a place where people just come and just praise God, but also come a place where people could just leave their burdens. Carry, the Bible, he said, bring your burdens. He said, bring your burdens, He said, cast your burdens upon me. He didn't just say bring it, he said, cast it, you know what I mean? My God, don't cast it on me, cast it on Jesus. Cast your burdens upon me. He said, and when you cast it, he said, throw it on him, and don't take it with you. So I'm happy that my brother, my friend, I wouldn't mind to make my mentor leading out for this month, with these sessions, and it's just phenomenal to see what our members are carrying, and we could do our best to not just come here to hear people's business. No, that's not the purpose. That's not this ground is built for. It's so you come here to share and to pray for one another. You know, we won't be there for another. One thing I learned in my training for CPE is the ministry of presence. Not all the time you got to come and say all those kind of words. Sometimes just come there and just be there. Yeah. So it means your pastor need presence too, you know. So just don't think the pastor only just offer it. But I'm grateful for you, my brother, my friend. Thank you so much. I'll give Brother Graham another round of applause. All right, around this time, as he mentioned, please tune in on Monday. What day did I say? Monday. At 7 p.m. We'll be on the Zoom platform. As he said, your cameras don't have to be on, and we'll be focusing on grief and loss group session, grief and loss. And then on Thursday at the same time, we'll be focusing on addictions. Both Monday and Thursday will be online. We're working on some in-person for the end of the month. Before we pivot into just a little bit of de-stressing activity from the AY, invite the Family Ministries Department with a brief announcement.
Thank you, Brother Garry. Thank you so much. Good evening. Good night. Everyone. We're here from the Family Life Ministries, Nadine and myself. I guess all of you have heard of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Have you signed up? We have the flyer. So you have to do the QR code. So we have QR code. There's some in the main church, and there's some by the personal ministries little booth. So we're asking you please just to use the QR code. The last day to register would be Sabbath because we have to put together the host with the guests. So if you haven't signed up, and on that Sabbath when everyone is going out to lunch and you're sitting back wondering what's going on, oh, can I come with you? I mean, there probably be no space at the table because nobody would be expecting you if you didn't sign up. So you must sign up to be a part of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. It's although you might think you're a stranger going to someone's house, no, we're a family of God. So please sign up for that Guess Who's Coming to Dinner event so that we all can be a part. We don't want to leave anyone out. So please sign up as guests or as a host. Thank you. Nadine has flyers, and we have flyers back